95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM at HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app. It's time to wake up with a nice cup of morning roast.
Oh, yeah.
Featuring Bonte Hill and Joe Shasky.
Well, I'm about that action, boss.
Take it out! This is the morning roast on 95.7 The Game.
Oh, baby. Good morning to everybody out there getting off their graveyard shifts. If you're at work, what is happening? If you're getting ready for work, if you're on the roadways, drive safely, folks, on a Friday, a Payday Friday / Frisco Friday. Here at 95.7 The Game, Joe Shasky the Butcher. We got Joe Spadoni behind the glass alongside Sam Lubman, who's getting ready for the Hurricanes and Aggies tomorrow in College Station. Prime time. The U is back on prime time. Can't wait for that one. And yours truly, Bonte Hill. And the shout-outs are still rolling in, Shasky. They're still rolling in. 925. Shout out to Triple G for getting ready to knock out Canelo tomorrow night. I'll be watching that fight. That's Carlos and Concord. Notre Dame and Cal. How about Cal Berkeley going to South Bend? The Fighting Joe Starkies. Cal Bears going to South Bend. Let's go, Cal.
You know what today is?
What's that?
30-year anniversary of RBL Posse, Don't Give Me No Bammer.
Can I hear the song?
We're going to have to get that song on. Frisco Anthem. When are we going to get Black Sea on the show?
Whatever we want.
Like, what are we doing? What are we waiting for?
I don't know. We get these guys on.
I do not think they have a clean version of that song.
No, they do. They do. There was a video, Hits from the Bay. Did you ever watch Greg Wallace Avenue?
Of course.
Hits from the Bay? You want to talk some real Frisco stuff.
Real Frisco stuff.
Channel 29, baby.
Real Frisco.
Out late with Ricky D right after.
Pre-HD.
Let's go.
We're going to talk to Jordan Elliot, staff writer at Niners Nation in just a second. Also covered the Niners for SB Nation. And he had changed his name. He got rid of the Splash Cousin. But remember we were talking to Brad Greb, and we shouted out Aponte. It was like Splash Cousin, Jordan Elliott. And Jordan Elliott was like, I got to bring back the Splash Cousin. And he brought it back. Why would you change a name like that? Splash Cousin. You can never get rid of a name like that. Fighting Irish. Y'all lost to Marshall last week. You're losing to Cal this week, too. Book it. Book it. Cal Bears going to South Bend, baby, to beat Shasky's Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Bob Fitzgerald, you won't hear the end of it this year. But you know what Bob's going to clap back with, Bob Fitzgerald.
Freeman needs a win.
Yeah,
Poor guy.
Oh, boy.
Poor guy.
Talk about
Marshall. They threw the pick six, and I almost fell out of my chair.
Hey, you think Trey Lance is under some hot water? Freeman over there at Notre Dame.
I mean,
oh, boy. They got Ty Willingham out of there in a heartbeat once he started struggling. And then Charlie Weiss won with Ty Willingham's recruits. And everybody, Charlie Weiss, the greatest thing that happened to Notre Dame since Lou Holtz. Yeah, that lasted long.
I hated Charlie Weiss.
All right, come out and see the Red and Gold pregame show with Larry Kruger and Lorenzo Dale live from the Hilton Hotel, Santa Clara, starting at 10 a.m.
Oh, nice.
On Sunday. Kruger and O'Neal.
Come at me, bro.
I got to stop by the Hilton because that's the place we made famous, Shasky.
Get some chicken tenders.
Come on. We made that place
I love
famous.
those chicken tenders.
There's still people mad at us for not doing the pre and post game show anymore. It's like, folks, got to wake up at 4 in the morning. Can't do the pre and post.
You know this is a big time game this weekend. Not only will both of us be in attendance, my wife's going.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she only goes to the big games.
Well, and it goes to all the games now.
Oh, she's in all the games kind of a girl. All right.
And now, all her friends yesterday she talked to, I could just hear in the background, I got to say, going to road grade was so fun. I had never experienced that. It's just so different. It's so cool. I'm like, Anna, you got to relax. We're not going to be going to road games like that all year long. It's one and done. Maybe they make the playoffs. Maybe we go to a road game then.
I'm imagining Anna as the tailgate coordinator on the road for the 49ers.
So let's make that happen this year.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to make that happen. The pregame show presented by Harris Ranch Beef, legendary quality Jim Beam bourbon whiskey. Taste the world's #1 bourbon. By the way, before we get Splash Cousin, the reason why I'm saying this, and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
But the reason why the NFC Championship game was so damn fun, our wives are back home.
Oh, yeah.
They're all home.
Hun, the phone's not getting any service right now. I'll call you in about 9 hours.
Mondo, Wart Whitehead, Ryan, you, even Papa Shafty. The significant others were back in the day.
This is when you know things get wild. My dad went Facebook Live, and then within minutes got a phone call from my mom. Who are those women next to you?
The Rams fans.
Remember that? He got in so much trouble.
I'm not even
He turns to me and goes, "Can you call your mother and tell her that those people next to us weren't with us? They just happened to be in the back." I'm like, "Dad, you should have never went on Facebook Live.
You should have never tried to show him where the bathroom was, Papa Shasky. Walking with it.
Stop it.
Snitching Bate. Splash Cousin Jordan Elliott. Staff writer of Niners Nation covering the Niners
game
for SB Nation. We had to talk to Splash Cousin, man. Splash Cousin, the name is back. Jordan Elliott is back. Your alter ego is back, baby. What's happening?
Hey, good morning, fellas. It was about time. I thought it was time to bring it back and, have a second coming of the Splash Cousin era. I quickly wanted to wish you a happy belated Bonte. I hope you had a good day yesterday.
That's
and
cool.
wishing you nothing but the best in the year to come. It's going to be the best I can feel it.
Yep,
thank you, brother.
I can too. All right, let's get to somebody who's having a rough week this week, just in terms of criticism. Elliot, Jordan Elliott, you looked at every single piece of film from this team for the last couple of years. You've been at a lot of the different games. I mean, I thought I was prepared for the Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo thing, and I admit I underestimated the whole thing. Have you seen anything like you're seeing in terms of criticism coming out of the 49er quarterback position like we've seen this week?
No, but I hate to say, I think it was kind of expected, and I think that was the biggest, disappointment that stemmed from what on the surface is a good football decision to insulate your quarterback room and have a reliable backup like Jimmy G would be in a break in glass in case of emergency kind of scenario. But this is what we all could see coming from a mile away. The thing that's the most disappointing was that it happened a week into the season, and I don't think any of it was justified. I don't know how anybody could have watched that game last week and came away with their initial reaction being, oh, well, Trey Lance is the reason they lost this game. If Jimmy G started, it would have been different. The way that game unfolded, it was very clear there were a dozen different issues that would come to the forefront before you talk about the quarterback play. And I just think that a lot of the criticism stemming from that game about Trey Lance came from people who were going into that game looking for any reason to criticize Trey Lance. And they were going to come out of it criticizing him no matter how he looked on the field. So I think it's just noise at this point, and I do think that the way he carries himself and the poise that he shows, I think that he is somebody that is capable of overcoming that noise, and I think that this week is a great start to silence a lot of those critics that just have no basis for the arguments they've made the last few days.
Yeah, I was really let down by the playmakers in general, or I guess the lack of opportunities for certain playmakers, certain specific spots where the defense was undisciplined, or maybe the offensive line seemed to let a jailbreak come through just in very crucial spots. Coming out of that game, after you've seen it a few times and you've broken it down, what was the one thing that you were like, gosh, they really got let down by this facet of the game?
I think you nailed it. I think it literally just came down to they were not disciplined enough, and they allowed an inferior team to hang around because they kept beating themselves. They had 12 penalties for 99 yards, and the biggest, one to me where the floodgates really opened was that face mask that Dre Greenlaw had, because up to that point, the Bears couldn't sustain anything on offense. The 49ers are up 10 points. They had 3 net passing yards halfway through the third quarter, and you're in a position where you're going to get the ball back up 10, and then all of a sudden the Bears are extending this drive, and then a couple plays later, they score on this broken play on this touchdown to Dante Pettis of all people, and that to me was kind of foreshadowing, where it was just like you had this gut feeling where it was like, oh, man, like this isn't going to end well after that. So I think really it just came down to the fact that they weren't as disciplined as a team that's as talented as they should have been. And I don't like throwing around the weather excuse, but I do think that the lack of discipline put them in a position where once they had to come back from a deficit where they were down 2 scores and they were going to have to be throwing the ball, Mother Nature intervened, and they're dealing with this rain that's coming down so hard that Fox is having to overlay graphics over the field because you can't even see the hash marks properly. So I just think it was a perfect storm of things going wrong that they put themselves into by being undisciplined early on when the conditions were more favorable.
That's Jordan Elliott, everybody. Splash Cousin. Find him at Niners Nation. Covered in Niners for SB Nation, breaking down the Niners' loss to the Chicago Bears. And we look ahead to Seattle. Look, Jordan, I think this Sunday, the defensive line has to put their blueprint on this game. They're the best positional group on this football team. They have to dominate. And when I look at the Seahawks offense, everybody's going crazy over Geno Smith, and that's fine. They scored nothing in the second half of that Monday night game against the Denver Broncos. Geno Smith, 6 of 10, 31 yards in that second half. DK Metcalf only had 36 yards receiving on 7 catches. They should be able to take advantage of what I believe is a below-average offensive line this Sunday. I need to see Bosa, Armstead, and Kinlaw continue to do what he did last Sunday, really dominate this game on Sunday.
Yeah, I completely agree. And Seattle is starting 2 rookie tackles, and I think that's where the 49ers really need to take advantage in this game. I think Charles Cross, their first-round pick, is a very talented player, but it's going to be his second start in the NFL, and you have to feel pretty good about your chances when you have Nick Bosa and Samson Ebukam and Drake Jackson and that just wave of pass rushers that they can throw at these guys who are still getting acclimated to the NFL level. The only 2 returning starters Seattle has on their offensive line are at the guard positions, so I'd also expect to see them try to dial up some pressures up the middle and kind of get some matchups with the center one-on-one as well. So it comes back to discipline, right? Like, I think that Seattle is always going to be a thorn in the 49ers side, and for whatever reason, they find a way to win games that they probably shouldn't on paper. But with Russell Wilson gone now, there really is no excuse. This is a game that the 49ers should win, and I do agree with you that the reason why Seattle won that game was largely because Denver kept having those same self-inflicting mistakes the 49ers had. Coincidentally, they had 12 penalties as well.
Yep.
They had 4 trips in the red zone. They fumbled twice inside the 10-yard line of Seattle. They didn't come away with any touchdowns in the red zone trip. So if the 49ers are able to just capitalize in the red zone, which, again, is easier said than done, I will give Seattle credit. They were the number 3 ranked red zone defense in the league last year. So I do think it wasn't necessarily luck, but I do think that the 49ers have such an advantage on paper that as long as they're able to stay out of their own way, they should be able to come away with a win and not be sweating this down the stretch. I think that this is a game they should win fairly handily.
Okay, so that being said, we all agree, the run, Shanahan in the run game. I got no idea what he's going to do here. And I'm not going to ask you what he's going to do. We know he loves the roster politics, so he favors certain guys that maybe we don't see it. What do you think they should do? From the guys that you've seen, you've been in almost every single practice that was open to the facility for fans and whatnot, and you've been behind the enemy lines, if you will, covering it for the media. Who's the guy that you would give the bulk of the touches to this weekend?
It would be Jeff Wilson Jr., and I think the biggest reason why is he is somebody that Shanahan can trust, and I think that while it may not always make sense or even be justified, Shanahan's made it very clear during his time in San Francisco that he's somebody who is very particular with who he trusts with the ball in certain situations. We've seen the plug pulled on guys very quickly when they do lose the football or mess up an assignment on a given play. And I think Jeff Wilson right now is the most reliable. I think he's the most underrated back on the team, and I've felt that for a long time. And the biggest reason why I think right now you have to trust him even more is what he can do in pass protection. When you have a young quarterback like Trey Lance, the biggest thing is keeping him upright and on 2 feet. And I think that Jeff Wilson's ability to pick up the blitz and be somebody that you can trust on a 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9 is going to be able to keep your young quarterback upright and give him the time he needs to deliver the football is more important than maybe having a younger back that has a little bit more juice maybe carrying the football, because I think that they will work in Ty Davis-Price this week. I expect Jordan Mason and Ty Davis-Price to both be active, so I expect them to see a good amount of touches. But to me, Jeff Wilson has to have the bulk of the work just because he's proven that he's somebody who can get it done at this level. And I think that Shanahan, more than a lot of coaches in the league, is very stubborn to a fault when it comes to having faith in guys or maybe not having faith in rookies that haven't proven themselves yet.
30 seconds or less, Jordan. How important is George Kittle for him to play this Sunday? Because I'm getting a little worried about him. He had the bonus practice where he gets hurt, the groin. We don't know if he's going to play. A tight end is a young quarterback's best friend. We saw Herbert last night with Gerald Everett. We saw Mahomes with Kelsey all these years. Tom Brady for years had a great tight end. Phillip Rivers had Antonio Gates. Kittle needs to play, and I'm a little concerned about him, Jordan.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the biggest thing is that as much as he's valuable in the passing game, just as you mentioned, and I completely agree, I think the thing that gets often overlooked is not only what Kittle brings to the run game, but what he brings from a schematic standpoint. Because when you have Kittle out there, when you have Juszczyk out there, defenses have to respect the run, and it's going to have defenses come out in heavier personnel. Instead of coming out in these lighter sub packages, they're going to have 3 linemen on the field. They're going to have to put out bigger nose tackles. And I think that because of that, it allows Shanahan to really get these looks where you get, a receiver isolated on a linebacker. You can get Kittle upfield on a safety or a linebacker. And I just think the way it opens up the offense from a schematic standpoint is almost as valuable as having the all-pro player in itself that Kittle is. So just the combination of that really makes it very difficult to succeed when he's not out there.
That's the Splash Cousin, everybody.
Killing it.
Breaking it down better than anybody out there. Jordan Elliott, hopefully we see you Sunday, week 2, Levi Stadium for the home opener.
Yes or no? Real quick, yes or no? Danny Gray, active or not?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he has to be for this one. I think the only reason that we didn't see Danny Gray was weather, and I know Kyle Shanahan mentioned special teams was a big reason why Turner was active. So I think this week you have to, especially they need somebody that can take the top off this defense, and I think that Danny Gray's that guy for sure.
No doubt.
Great
Follow
stuff.
his work at Niners Nation, staff writer at Niners Nation, covering the Niners for SB Nation. Jordan Elliott, one of our favorites here in the morning roast. He's the Splash Cousin. Splash, see you Sunday, man. Hopefully you're out there at Levi Stadium.
Hey, I'll see you fellas out there. Thank you so much.
Sounds good.
Anytime. Jordan Elliott.